Elham Zanjani della Commissione delle Donne della Resistenza iraniana.
Buongiorno. I will speak in English today, but there's a translation. Honorable members of the Italian Senate and Parliament, dear friends, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address this very important meeting today. Following the World Day against the death penalty, I would like to pay tribute to 120,000 political prisoners, including the 30,000 killed in the 1988 massacre in Iran. I would like to begin my remarks by saluting my sisters in the Iranian prisons, the bereaved but outspoken mothers of prisoners and execution victims, and all the men and women present in the front lines in every protest against the regime ruling my country, Iran. To the millions who have turned every single opportunity into an act of defiance and are trapped in a very large prison, a prison particularly for women, called Iran. A fundamentalist regime has been ruling my country for over 38 years. Its main character is suppression, particularly enmity to women. 120,000 members of our movement have been executed by the Iranian regime for their opposition, among which 30% were women. In the past 3-4 decades, nowhere in the world have women been tortured and executed in such great numbers or assaulted in prisons as they have been in Iran. Fatemeh Mesbah was only 13 at the time of her execution. Mojgan Jamshidi was only 14 when she was executed. Women have died under torture, and women who were even pregnant were sent before the firing squads, just like Soraya Abolfati. The Iranian regime is today the world's leading per capita executioner. It also holds the record in the execution of women and minors. It uses execution as a tool to suppress and silence an unhappy public, to the majority of whom live under the poverty line, are unemployed and deprived of freedom of expression. Over 3,200 people have been executed under Rouhani. In the same period, 81 women have been executed, 10 since January 2017. Iranian women who have gained the right to vote before most European countries are now treated as second-class citizens, and by law they are deprived of their most basic rights and have been the main victims of this misogynist regime as they are systematically suppressed. On average, 2,000 women are arrested daily for not observing the forced dress code by 26 agencies that are responsible for their suppression. But there's another side of this story that I'm here to explain to you. Women play a key role in the Iranian people's resistance against religious tyranny, serving as a source of inspiration and empowerment to women across Iran and throughout the region. The women of Iran have in front of them a resistance which is led by a woman, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, who is the antithesis to the misogynist regime ruling Iran. She is a woman who has been at the forefront of resistance for freedom for Iran and peace in the region. Thanks to her exceptional role, the women of Iran have not surrendered to the regime until today. The Iranian regime has admitted time and after time that the resistance of Iranian women in prison under the most inhuman and barbaric torture has been unprecedented. But it's not only in the prisons and under torture that Iranian women have shown their steadfastness. They have emerged as the vanguards in the fight for the Iranian people for freedom and democracy. Iranian women are indeed the ones who will overthrow this fundamentalist regime, and freedom and democracy will be established in Iran. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the massacre of 30,000 political prisoners in 1988 in Iran. In the summer of 1988, which was called the Summer of Blood, Khomeini issued a fatwa, a religious decree, to execute political prisoners, many who had even finished their prison terms. 30,000 political prisoners, mainly members of the principal opposition, the MEK, were executed as part of the regime's campaign to wipe out the opposition. Over a period of a few months, the death committees established to carry out executions rounded up tens of thousands of political prisoners, giving them trials that only lasted minutes. Since 1988, The Iranian regime has worked hard to cover up these horrors. As the locations of the mass graves remain largely unknown, the public is banned from visiting those that have been uncovered. However, following last year's call by Mrs. Rajavi for a justice-seeking movement that has turned into a national demand by families and the youth, creating a broad-based knowledge in the Iranian society, this has been very dreadful for the regime, and they are very afraid. This has created fear within the regime, as our nation's will to achieve freedom has time and again shaking up the clerical regime that relies on massacre. The families of the victims in Iran deserve closure and justice, which cannot be achieved without an official investigation into the brutality perpetrated by the regime. Creating a commission of inquiry into the crimes of the Iranian government would further establish this precedent of justice and protecting human rights, and would display to the world that those who violate international law on such a deadly scale will be held responsible for their actions. So today we join Mrs. Rajavi's call to urge the government of Italy and all parties, institutions, and those who defend human rights to support the Iranian resistance's call on the United Nations to form a committee to investigate the 1988 massacre of 30,000 political prisoners, so that the officials in charge of this crime against humanity would face justice. We also urge the Italian Senate and National Parliament to officially declare the massacre as a crime against humanity, and we urge Italy to condition its relations with the religious fascism ruling Iran on an end to executions and torture. Italy has been the vanguard and has played a key role in the movement to stop executions. The people of Iran and the Iranian resistance expect the representatives of the Italian people to rise once again to their historical responsibility. I thank you once again for this opportunity.
Grazie, Elham Zanjani.